communications has historically not provided the information like that web of trust to let you know, should I trust this? And because of that, that's why you've got so many robocalls and you've got spoofers and scammers and phishers.
Yeah, well, in fact, this was a criticism of Twilio in the early days, was that people used the platform because you gave them phone numbers and they could burn through phone numbers. And then there was some abuse, right? And you had to deal with that. And that was a hard decision for you because people wanted to pay for the platform and they're customers, but maybe they were using them in ways that you wouldn't want them to. How did you deal with it back in the day?
And so, what we did is, many years ago, developed our acceptable use policy and said, okay, here are the ways in which we want our technology to be used, and here are the ways we don't want it to be used. And I think as a company, you do have the ability to decide what kind of customers you want, what kind of use cases you want. And, as long as you've got clear rules and you articulate those to customers in your ecosystem, that certainly you should be able to decide how your technology is used. And that's what I think is really important. So this world of trusted communications, to me, is about building more trust into the communication networks of the world. Now, we can't do this alone because there's thousands of carriers in the world. There's all these different handsets in the world. And so it's really an ecosystem that is moving along. But, in voice, for example, a new protocol called Stir Shaken that we've helped to bring to market along with the carriers has made it so that phone calls can now be trusted because they're digitally signed by the company like Twilio that is initiating that phone call. Prior to this. Yep. Exactly. Before all this, if you're, Verizon and there's an incoming phone call to your network, it kind of arrives at your boundary. You have no way of knowing if the phone number that it says it's coming from is actually true or not, because the phone network itself was an untrusted network. Well, I don't know how to say, I don't actually know the right way to phrase it. It was actually a trusted network. If you go way back, I'll give you a little history lesson here. AT&T ran the entire network in the United States at one point, right? Then they got broken up into baby bells. And in the world where everybody was AT&T, like to be a participant on the phone network, you had to be AT&T. That was your badge, right? And so in that world, yeah, and all the equipment sitting in the network was AT&T. I mean, everything was AT&T. And so it was just like, well, we don't need trust. It's trusted by default. Well, of course, then it got broken up into the baby bells. And then the Telecommunications Act of 1996 said like, oh no, we're going to open up this network. And they created CLEX and all this sort of stuff. Well, you still had all this running on top of a network with no trust model. And then you start to see all the bad actors popping up and people who drop phone calls onto the network and spoofing your phone number, Jason, and everything else. And that's why it has gotten so messy. And so what we've been working on for the past several years, how do we bring trust back into that network? And to me, that looks like when you get a text message from your bank, it's got a padlock. And instead of saying, +1 415, or if it's a short code, 404, 404, whatever, it says, your bank. And there's that green padlock there that says this is, assured to be who they say they are. And you click that, it says, Twilio has verified the identity of the sender, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's how you can trust that message. And if that padlock is missing, that's when you should say, well, I don't know. Do I trust this? Or maybe even your handset just says, you know what? There's no padlock. I'm not going to show it to you. That's the world that we're building towards, where every communication is verified and you know who is sending it and you know that they're authentic. And I think that will open the doors for even more interesting things like commerce, like buying things over communications much more easily, because if everything is authenticated, you know that it's safe to do that. And many more interesting ways in which we can use messaging to engage with companies in ways that we did not even imagine possible. Isn't that called, there used to be a name for that. Remember, you screen your phone calls? The answering machine picks up and you could listen. Well, it's a process. Yeah, it's a process. And these things don't happen overnight, right? They take a while. It starts with people, though. It really starts with bringing folks together as one team and having and building that shared mission. Because like when you acquire a company, they've got their mission, we've got ours. And when you bring people together, what you need to do is start to build that shared understanding of what we're going to do together. And every time there's an acquisition, right? There's a press release and the CEOs do a little like press tour and they talk about this grand vision. And, from the outside, you might say, okay, well, that's done. Nice vision. Good job, guys. But in the reality is like inside the company, you have to go around, you have to evangelize, you have to talk to the teams and, really sell. Here's what we're building. And then you got to figure out a whole lot of hairy details about how it's going to work. And, it sounds good in the press release, but in the reality is it's like, okay, now we got, to integrate, identity systems and billing systems and auth systems, and even just getting the email to work, between the two companies. I mean, these are just really, mundane details, but it takes teams and a lot of work to go figure out how to do those things. And so, you've got that. But the point of really all of that. So how do I create an environment where now these teams can actually, collaborate on unlocking this vision that we have for the company in the long term, and the reason why we're coming together and docking these ships together.
Don't you wish you could hire a ringer to help scale out your marketing team? I know you do. Well, with Marketer Hire, you can, and you can do it right now. Marketer Hire gives you access to expert freelancers on demand with no long-term contracts and no risk. You can hire experienced specialists across the most valuable marketing disciplines, from paid social and search to growth, SEO, content, and even get a fractional CMO. If you don't need a full-time one, maybe a fractional one would work great for you. Again, no long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time. And if it's your first time working with freelance talent, you'll start with a no-risk trial. Only hire what you need and stay on budget with hourly, part-time, or full-time arrangements. Every freelancer on Marketer Hire goes through a rigorous vetting process with industry experts. Freelancers from Marketer Hire have been hired at over 1,500 companies, including top brands like Netflix, Allbirds, and Lambda School. You're going to get $500 off your first hire at marketerhire.com/twist. Again, Marketer, marketerhire.com/twist, marketerhire.com/twist. Get that $500 right now, and you'll also get a free consultation on who to hire based on your needs and your goals. Again, $500 right now, marketerhire.com/twist.